Welcome back to the channel, guys. So we're going to be reacting to DC trashing the Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic fight. So look, obviously DC's going to be completely salty about what happened. Jon Jones absolutely annihilated him. DC isn't a scumbag. Jon Jones is. There you go. Right? I said it. We all know what Jon Jones is, but guess what? He's the GOAT. He's the greatest of all time. The guy has never been beaten, apart from that one disqualification thing where they're even bringing back 12 to 6 elbows. Do you know what I mean? So the guy's never been beaten, right? He's never been beaten. And he absolutely annihilated DC, and he's moved up the heavyweight, and he's successful in the heavyweight division. And he's fighting a guy that's been put off now due to injury to Jon Jones. I think it's a pectoral injury. And he's fighting arguably the greatest heavyweight of all time. Not arguably, is the greatest heavyweight of all time, Stipe Miocic. So this is GOAT against GOAT, greatest of all time against greatest of all time. And we're going to find out who is the top GOAT. Simple as that, right? So I think what DC's comparing this fight to, I think it's either Alex, the main card, the main fight, Alex Pereira versus Yuri Prohaska, or Aspinall, the Aspinall fight. Either one, I do not care. I do not care. I want to see Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic. And you do too.
Might have fallen in love with the idea. I'm just saying, we might have fallen in love with the idea of Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic for what they've been to the game.
They literally bring greatness to the game. Jon Jones has never been beaten. Stipe Miocic has been beaten, but the guy is an absolute animal who knows how to implement a really, really solid game plan against top-level opponents and win. Will Stipe Miocic's game plan override Jon Jones's skill? That's what we're here to see. And that beats anything else in the sport right now. If you came to me and said, Ronan, you've got a choice between Conor McGregor coming back and fighting Khabib's going to come back from McGregor, or Jones versus Miocic, I'm going to pick Jones versus Miocic for the simple reason is we've seen the first fight with Conor McGregor. We know how that went. We haven't seen this. GOAT versus GOAT. It's simple. It's a no-brainer.
And we may overestimate the value of the fight because Pavlovich versus Tom Aspinall might be a better fight.
Okay. So DC has now turned into a fortune teller. Okay, so how do we know that? Okay, Pavlovich is a killer. Aspinall's a killer. Both these guys are can tee off at any moment. But they don't have the clout in MMA like Jon Jones and Stipe Miocic, especially Jon Jones. So it's a no-brainer.
See, you're wrong. Were looking for those jabos.
You're wrong. I'm saying you're wrong. Right.
Look at that face. I don't know if this is just set up and they knew what they were going to say to each other beforehand, but look at DC's face.
Right now, you are wrong.
How? Well, how do you think you're wrong, mate? You know how you're wrong because the clout that these two guys bring, the unknown that these two guys bring. We understand that Pavlovich and Aspinall has got potential to be a better fight, and it probably will be a better fight. But when it comes down to it, Jon Jones is the GOAT. I have to keep reiterating this. Jon Jones is the GOAT. Stipe Miocic is considered the heavyweight GOAT. GOAT versus GOAT. Aspinall versus Pavlovich isn't GOAT versus GOAT. Nothing compares to it. Simple as that.
Super Bowl, is it the Super Bowl and we aren't excited about it just because they gave...
Oh, we're going to go into some American answer here where he's going to like bring comparisons to other sport, the Super Bowl. And listen, I know nothing about American football. Just explain it normally, like, you know, it's Jon Jones. It's self-explanatory.
Give it a name. We're excited about it because those two teams are supposed to be the best in the world. They're supposed to be two of the best teams that's ever done it. This is the Super Bowl.
Yes, but Ryan,
Stipe Miocic and Jon Jones.
You're building the...
100% agree. This is the Super Bowl of MMA. GOAT versus GOAT. There you go. DC should just sit back and go, do you know what? You're 100% correct. I got it wrong.
You're building this Super Bowl over the course of an 18-game schedule. We haven't seen Stipe for 2 years. How do we know what we're going to see? It'll be like,
bro, it's fighting. It's fighting. You go through a training camp to keep sharp. You could be off for 5 years, come back, do an 8-month, sort of a 3-month back in the game thing, and then go through like an 8-week to 6-week training camp when you're sharp and ready for the fight to get that ring rust away. Some people still have the ring rust. Some people don't. In the Super Bowl, I get that it's a completely different sport, but the comparisons are terrible here. Fighting is completely different from any other sport. Completely different. You cannot bring that comparison. But at the end of the day, you know, fighters have the ability to replicate what they do in their actual sport behind the scenes. You can't really do that with any other competitive sport, because if you're training, maybe you're a star player. I don't know, American football, Tom Brady, I know him. You know, I'm sure Tom Brady it would be harder for him to replicate in-game competition against an opponent that wants to take you out. But you can do that in MMA a little bit better than any other sport.
It would be like saying the Bengals don't have to play no more, but because they did what they did 2 years ago, they're back in the Super Bowl.
Did he just say the Bagels? Is there a team called the Bagels? I'm just imagining if West Ham was called the Bagels and West Ham was called the Bagels and Chelsea was called Cheese on Toast. That would get the West Ham fans up out of bed, wouldn't it? For a good old scrap in the middle of London.
See, it's not saying that because it's the fight game. It's the same thing that we were all screaming when Jon Jones set out for 3 years. What's Jon Jones going to be like? Jon Jones is moving.
Exactly my point, my friend. Jon Jones sat out for all that time, came back, and didn't even show a bit of ring rust. A little bit, because he was able to replicate what he needed to do in the training room. It's harder to do that in any other sport. I don't know where DC's coming from here. He should know this better than the other guy. I don't even know who this is.
Up. You know what he's going to be like? He's going to choke the mess out of Cyril Gane. Cyril Gane is going to look like a little baby fish flapping outside of the water when Jon Jones get into the octagon. Stipe Miocic built his resume, built his career, built his reputation on greatness. And I just don't, it's not football. Right? It's not football where I got to have like this training camp and maybe get some plays in and now I got to warm back up into it. Like when you fight, you become a fighter, bro. And
when you fight, you become a fighter, bro. A fighter, bro. When you fight, you become a fighter, bro. You become a fighter, bro. The most American thing I've ever heard in my life. But I agree with him. And he's 100% correct. And DC knows this here. He can't give credit to Jon Jones. Even though he says the beef is squashed, he can't give any credit to Jon Jones. You know, what Jon Jones done to him was, I mean, I have to say DC's a better man than Jon Jones 100%, because I don't think Jon Jones could take the level of humiliation put upon him that he put upon DC and still be in this game, speaking, talking, and even reacting to fights. Jon Jones would probably hide under one of his Ferraris and wait for the police to come and lift him.
The muscle memory in which you guys have, the way that you step back into training, especially when dudes like you have a goal, especially when dudes like you are relatively healthy. Y'all been doing that junk your whole life, bruh. Like, it's not, Stipe Miocic is not going to all of a sudden be pooped, right? You're acting like he's not going to be good. And even if Jon Jones beats him, and it's not like this competitive matchup, if Stipe's at the best he could be right now, and Jon Jones is at the best he could be right now, that's a great fight. That's a fight that we're interested in. Like what you're saying is can apply to any UFC fight, DC.
Exactly. That's my point here. That's exactly my point. I mean, How is this guy able to teach DC something? DC knows this. He's playing with us. Like, he's 100% playing with us.
We can see number 18 in the welterweight fight number 19.
No, let DC speak now because I want to hear his reply to this.
In the welterweight, and because they're closely matched and because they're exciting, we could get a great fight. But it wouldn't matter to us. It wouldn't move us. Like DC, here, DC. Okay, let me try this. Let's try this. The Bears, right? The Bears.
100% DC's playing with us. He understands this, and this guy's going to bring in another reference to some American football game or ice hockey or baseball. I actually like ice hockey, so I'm not going to call that shit, but some other shit sport that nobody really watches. I mean, yeah, we get it. Stop speaking. I want to hear DC's reply, but I can tell you right now, he's playing with us.
Okay. Very bad football team.
Yeah. Yes.
Correct? The Raiders.
Yes.
Very bad football team. They just played, so this is not like a truth. Let's say both of them got together, and in their awfulness...
I want to hear about MMA, not fucking Raiders, man.
Oh, I got it better for you. The Giants and the Jets, both of them are terrible. In their awfulness, they played an overtime
This is
thriller
terrible.
that was won because Zach Wilson threw the ball up the field in overtime, and they got a pass interference. But he did have two great throws toward the end of the game to kick a field goal, right? To tie it a whopping 10-10, DC. It was 24 points.
My God, I have to stop it here, guys. Listen. Right, so what I'm going to say to you is, right, so DC's wrong, and I think he's playing with us, or he's just doing it for a hot take. I don't know. The other guy's 100% right. You can't compare this to other sports. Of course, Jon Jones versus Miocic is better than Pavlovich versus Aspinall. Of course it is. Listen, anybody that's saying any different, I'm not saying that the fight, the Aspinall fight's going to it's not going to be good. I'm not saying it can't, on the night, surpass that fight. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that when it comes down to it, if somebody came up to you right now and says, look, we can magically heal Jon Jones and get him to fight Stipe Miocic that night, but he has to take the Aspinall Pavlovich space on the card. Within a couple of seconds, within a millisecond, you're answering that question. Get Aspinall, get Pavlovich off that card, and get Jon Jones and Miocic on that card. And that's it. Of course you would. Even if you hate Jon Jones, even if you hate Stipe Miocic, even if you hate them, you're interested, you're invested. And of course, DC is talking the biggest pile of shit.